Let's do it, man.
All right, what's up? Welcome into another edition of Chat It Up Sports. I'm your humble host, Greg Larnard. This way on the camera is my friend, Joseph Guthrie, the winner from this weekend. I'll give you 3 claps, 1, 2, 3, and a hoop for your Georgia Bulldogs. I know Miggy won't do any of that. Below me is the man, the myth, the legend, Miggy Malcolm Harris. Him and I are licking our wounds here today. If you're wondering, you're going to get a nice little side profile of him for the entire show with his earring and his nice jawline and a fantastic beard. So, I don't know what he's doing over there with his camera, but we get the side profile today.
Yeah, got to change up the location. Going to the bedroom today. That's where the magic happens.
Hey,
oh,
the doctor is in.
Come on, baby.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So, unfortunately, Tennessee, for the two of us, did not come away with a victory. Close game going up into halftime. And then Georgia was able to run away in the second half. We'll dive headfirst into all of that coming up in just a little while. We'll go through our core 4. We'll talk a little NFL. We'll get into the AP Top 25 as well, where things kind of shook out after this weekend. Did they fix the AP Top 25, or do we still have some problems with it? Joseph, get some water because it's going to be a little while here. Welcome to Chat It Up. Find us all over social media at Chat It Up Sports, wherever you get your podcasts as well at Chat It Up Sports. Once again, 5 stars, nothing less. Make sure you tell a friend to tell a friend to tell their parents, and the holidays are coming up as well. So a lot of good things there. But right off the jump, Joseph, I'm just going to give you your flowers. I'm going to let you talk about your Georgia Bulldogs. Man, Carson Beck looked like the college version of Patrick Mahomes in that game. He was running all over the place. He was not making many mistakes throwing the football. It was Georgia taking advantage of Tennessee's secondary in this game instead of Tennessee being able to take advantage of Georgia's secondary. And you saw that crowd being a factor a couple of different times. So give me your thoughts on your big win, a season-saving win for Carson Beck.
Yeah, man. That was the Carson that everybody knew was there. That's the Carson that we expected to see from the get-go. That's the Carson that we saw last season. He looked comfortable. He looked like he was having fun, and he was just the right amount of I don't want to say reckless, but he was ripping the ball with confidence.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a testament to the shuffling that they did with the O-line, because the way that he was able to stay calm and was able to be poised in the pocket was what allowed him to deal the way he was dealing, because he hasn't had that for most of the season. He hasn't had that level of comfortability that he's had up to this point. And it's one of the things that we kind of tagged in the game. That was the strength of the Tennessee defense, was the front 7, and that we had played it up to where we were like, they can do the same things to you that Ole Miss had done to you. And Georgia found a way to neutralize that factor. And that was ultimately what I think the game came down to. Because I don't think, Georgia doesn't wow you at the receiver position. They don't, but it's hard to cover. And Tennessee's weakness is the back end. The corners are susceptible, but up to this point, there hasn't really been a team that's able to hold up against their D-line long enough to really take advantage of that. And there's one thing that they showed in the fourth quarter. ESPN flashed a graphic, and it was comparing last week versus this week, Ole Miss versus Tennessee. With 7:18 left in the fourth quarter, it was still a 1-score game at that point. Mm-hmm. In pressures, sacks, and tackles for loss, Ole Miss had 14 pressures, 5 sacks, and 9 tackles for loss.
Wow.
Tennessee had 3 pressures, 0 sacks, and 2 tackles for loss. So, those APBs that you guys have been putting out earlier in the season, they kind of came back. And man, I really think, I know it got played up a lot on social media, and not to just kind of reverberate what other people have said, but I don't think it can be overstated. That run that Carson had shifted the tone, where he escaped pressure, got the first down, and put his shoulder into the safety. Kind of was like, oh, the dog's back. Carson's back. He's ready to put himself on the line. He's ready to do what he has to do to win this game. And it felt like the energy and the vibe in the stadium and on the team changed for the better at that point for Georgia fans.
Yeah.
But man, I mean, Tennessee, you were able to run the ball decently. And I think 3.9 yards per carry. Georgia had 3.4, something like that. So pretty even running the ground, or pretty even on the ground. Where this came down to, man, was the passing game. Tennessee 167 yards, Georgia 347. It was something that you guys have talked about that's plagued you all season. You know, deep shots are there. Nico was hitting them, but you just had some drop passes. And listen, if anybody understands what it's like,
you know,
drop passes, I get it, man. It's beyond frustrating because it's one of those things where it's like it should be the last thing that happens in a pass play that results in no gain is a dropped pass. And especially one that hits right in the hands, because everything else up to that point has been done right. The offensive line held up, the quarterback found his target, and he got the ball there. So literally your last step is just to catch it. And when that's the one thing that falls apart, it's just frustrating. And it's a momentum killer, and it's tough because it's like, well, how do you learn from that? It's like, well, you just got to catch the ball. Yeah, that's just a repetition thing. I think another thing that this game came down to was explosive plays. But Georgia had 6, Tennessee had 1. So in a game where the strengths of the two teams definitely lie in the defenses, explosive plays are going to set you apart.
Yep.
So because they're going to make up for your inability to consistently drive down the field, and they're also going to mask for Georgia specifically, they're going to mask your inability to run the ball, because that still showed up against Tennessee. They really could not run the ball very well, but their ability to scheme the tight ends open, Bobo kind of got in his bag a little bit. And man, I got to give some flowers. Welcome to the 2024 season, Oscar Delp, dude. I think he had more production in that game than he had all season. That's what we weren't expecting him to be Brock. By no means was anybody saying Oscar Delp's going to fill Brock Bowers' shoes. We always knew it was going to be the production that Brock had was going to be filled by committee. Like the sum of that room would need to equal what Brock had done. And it hadn't lived up to it this season. But Saturday night, man, they really showed out. I mean, Delp.
He looked like Brock Bowers on a couple of those touchdown catches. My gosh, I know Biggie was like, "Hey, there's no lad." What'd you say? The Akon song or whatever it was. They ain't coming.
I'm just so sad, guys.
I mean,
it's so sad.
It's one of those things too, where it's like this is, I gotta give credit to where it was from. I was listening to Pate last night, and he's the one that said it. He said Georgia is one of those programs where currently where they sit is they're kind of like Saban with Alabama. When you get up on them, you have to bury them. Don't give them hope. Don't give them a chance. He phrased it, cut the head off the snake. Yeah. You have to do that. When you have a 10-point lead, when you have momentum, when you have a chance to really pull a crowd out of a game and silence a home team, and you have to take advantage of it. And I think that's another thing that kind of bit Tennessee ultimately. 10 for 18 on third down. You had opportunities, and Georgia also had some opportunities that they kind of squandered early. I mean, that deep ball to Arian Smith should have been caught. Should have been a 45-yard, 50-yard gain right out of the gate. And how did they start the game? The same way they've been starting most other games. A big play, drop pass. And it's things like that. It's small plays. It's like we had talked about after the LSU Alabama game, Greg, when I brought up the center missing Jahad Campbell. It's small plays like that end up winning you these big heavyweight matches, and you have to make them. And especially against a team that's year over year recruits the way that Georgia does, when you have them in a position to really put them away, you have to take it. And Tennessee just didn't.
No, they didn't. And you're talking about explosive plays and things like that. Just kind of like looking over the box score, and you mentioned just one explosive, that's 20-plus yards on Tennessee side, and it was the touchdown run by Dylan Sampson. And you look over in the receiving game, and it's, long of 32, long of 38, long of 25, long of 21, long of 23, long of 23. Like, there were so many explosive plays, and I think it really just simply comes down to that. Really, like what you said about what Pate said. Hey, you're up 10-0 after the first quarter. You have to bury them on their home field. You let them hang around, a good team's going to find a way to do it and come back. And they score 17 points in that second quarter off of what is supposed to be one of your strengths, your defense. We talked about that on Thursday's show before the game. And then you go out there and you can't get any explosive plays in the passing game. We knew Georgia's running game and rushing attack wasn't going to be that dynamic, and it wasn't. Obviously Carson Beck had, the touchdown run, and Nate Frazier was okay. He did enough to just be okay, 3.5 yards a carry, but it was really the passing attack that you weren't really expecting, especially the way that Georgia's been playing. And Tennessee's secondary, the one sort of weakness that we thought might kind of rear its ugly head at some point, it reared its ugly head in one of the biggest moments of the game. And kept Georgia in the SEC race. It kept Georgia in the college football playoff race. And now it puts Tennessee in a really difficult position moving forward. Obviously, we knew they have to win these last two games anyways. They're playing UTEP and Vandy, so it's not the biggest things in the world. Obviously, I know, Miggy, you're scared to death of Vanderbilt, but
absolutely.
Yeah, you got to put respect on the doors, man.
You do, and they've been playing great ball. I mean, Diego Pavia is one of the hottest quarterbacks in the conference, and this is not going to be an easy last 2 weeks. And also, you have to stay healthy for what's to come. As I look at this Georgia game, I was frustrated because Tennessee still hasn't played their best football game, right? And there's 2 more games left in the 2024 season, and it seems like the team that's just never going to reach its full potential, and it just is what it is. This is the 2024 Tennessee Volunteers. I mean, they played good defensively, but it should have been a whole lot better, right? I do think that, for what it's worth, Will Brooks has been amazing. This was by far his worst game in a Tennessee uniform. He absolutely got matched and schemed on in a way that people saw that this was a mismatch and they took advantage of it. And it was just little things, little motions in the backfield to create those matchups that you wanted. I thought that Ricky Gibson played a really good game. Jamad McCoy, he was good. It wasn't great, wasn't what we expected. I mean, but overall, I think that I want to give grace to this guy, defensive coordinator Tim Banks, because he has led this unit to be a top 10 unit in every single defensive stat all year, and this was truly his worst game. And I also hate the whole dang state of Georgia, but I
thank you, Sarah. We love you, Sarah Blake.
Yeah, shout out my boy Matt too. Love you as well. But I'm saying all this to say that it is not over for Tennessee. I do think though that Georgia is going to control their own destiny if they do what they need to do. And Tennessee now needs some help from some unexpected folks. We are all Florida Gator fans, and as you hold up that hideous shirt, I'm turning my attention to the other matchup, and I'm done. I've avoided all of my Georgia friends this past weekend. I'm from the great state of Georgia. A lot of my best friends went to UGA and have UGA ties. I have not called anybody back, so I might tomorrow. We'll see.
It's all right, man. It's it's understandable. It's they're a hard team to beat, man, and it takes a special effort, and I still think you're on the right track. I know it's not the result you wanted, but Tennessee's building. They're gaining momentum. This is still Nico's first year. I saw some stuff on social media where people were talking about how it's time to admit it. Nico's not who we thought he was, and I thought to myself, I don't really think that's a fair assessment. I don't really think that's a fair take to dump on Nico, because he has played. I think he's played well, and I think he played well Saturday night. But the help he needed from his receivers, he didn't get, and he's still just a first-year starter, man. I mean, I know we see these NIL numbers and we see these players getting paid and we expect them they're not NFL guys. They're not NFL quarterbacks. They're not seasoned vets. They haven't racked up, 40, 50, 60 games of experience. This is Nico's 10th game, 11th game as a starter. So I mean, it's frustrating because you know what the defense is, and you know it's going to be hard to replicate. So you want to take advantage of it. But sometimes these things just don't line up, man. And Nico will get there. And as Nico improves, this team will also improve. And you're recruiting better. Like, I know it's not all the things you want to hear, and it's tough to hear after a loss, but the Vols are moving in the right direction. Like, as far as everything they need, they're moving in the right direction.
Sarah, I did. Straight up. I did tell you that we would. And we were supposed to. I mean, Nico can't catch the football, too. And there are a lot of plays. And I don't want to be this guy, Joseph. Listen.
Uh-huh.
This officiating was awful.
Yeah.
It was awful.
Yeah, it's been, listen, there's a saying, okay? If you let the officials screw you out of a win, they'll do it. I don't think that's what happened Saturday night, because this isn't the only poorly officiated game that has happened this year. I mean, I could go back about a month in Austin, Texas, and be like, hey guys, here's what happened. Like, it's something, and we've beat this drum. We've beaten a dead horse here. Like, officiating has to get better. It has to. Yeah. But I don't think it's the reason you lost the game.
It is not. It is not. I will say there's some things that I've never seen before be called down between the hedges, meaning the substitution with Jackson Moy taking a sweet time, folks questioning his effort. It was by design. All right, Mr. Moore, you are good here from Chatt It Up Sports.
Oh, I mean, dude.
Go ahead.
What he was doing, every other program has done that. That is not a new thing. That's not an uncommon thing. That happens. You're trying to game a delay of game penalty. Problem is, when you do that, some officiating crews are a little more lenient than others. Apparently the rule is you're supposed to have 3 seconds. Like, from when you start substituting off, you're supposed to have 3 seconds. So I get it. It's a little bit of gamesmanship, but at the same time, it's like, you played with fire a little bit, and it got you burned.
It did. It did. Your boy Carson Beck with the false start before a nice little pass.
Yep. Yeah. So, okay. So in the rule book, players in the backfield, including the quarterback, can be moving backwards. It's technically a motion. So that actually, by rule, was not a false start.
I'll never
talk to him, Mig.
But it's okay, because I'm salty. I am. I will sit here and just say it right now. I'm absolutely salty because I know what's going to happen. In the next 2 weeks, Joseph, who do y'all have? It's Georgia Tech,
UMass, and Georgia Tech.
I guarantee UMass is going to go up in this game 3-0 or 7-0 because guys went all out. UMass is going to look like the best team ever, and Carson Beck's going to throw at least 1 or 2 interceptions. Like, it's just the way of the land. Or Georgia Tech's going to play y'all tough.
Georgia Tech's going to happen. Tough.
Yeah, something is going to happen where you guys are going to get played tough. And I'm going to be frustrated because I'm like, the one time we couldn't wake up. But ultimately, this was the game, and I cannot believe I'm saying this. Clay Travis, a guy that is notorious in our industry, said this is the game that we were expected to lose, right? The game that we should all be mad about is Arkansas.
Oh, of course. 100%.
That is what is ultimately keeping us from our dreams. And it's plagued Josh Heupel for his entirety of his Tennessee career. But I'm okay with it. I'm okay with, like, we can't win every single football game for the rest of the time. You're going to lose some games. If you're competing into the fourth quarter, which Tennessee was, it just showed what a championship team was and what a championship team was. And that's just what Georgia is. It's championship pedigree.
Do you guys think that this game would have been different if it were played on a neutral field? How much do you think the crowd and the home environment, Joseph, played into this one?
Oh, it was huge. I mean, it's 2 false starts. I mean, Carson had 2 free plays that ended up in big explosives. The pass to Dom Lovett and the pass to Lawson Lucky. I mean, those were 2 of those 6 explosives that we talked about come off free plays. Home environment's huge, man. And it's one of those things where it's like Georgia is one of those schools, or they're one of those teams that over the past 5 years, they might get one of these a year because they have just steamrolled. And that's not a flex. That's not a fan. Like, they have become one of these teams. They've become like Alabama, where they would just steamroll. So they weren't put in primetime slots because their spreads were 21, 22, 18, 25, 27. Like, and so when you have a fan base that was so hungry for a national title, and then they get 2 back-to-back, and then you get slotted into this, like, well, they're just going to roll. So we don't really want to spend our primetime slot on that. The fan base is like, guys, we can we just get one night game? Can we get just one night game? And you finally give it to them, and you give it to them to one of the hottest teams in the SEC in Tennessee. So that fan base, they're going to be ready. They're going to take full advantage, and they were, man. And it's one of those things too. There has been some. And I think the fan base has felt it. And I know the fan base has felt it because I've seen it from the Georgia circles. Over the past few years, and it really happened after the Arkansas game in 21, over the past few years, Sanford Stadium has been lauded as a not very hard place to play in terms of the grand scheme of things, in terms of like comparing it to Neyland and comparing it to the Big House and comparing it to Autzen and Ohio State and Alabama. People had typically slotted Sanford Stadium lower. And they were like, well, Georgia is not really – like, they're really good. It's hard to play against Georgia, but not because of the environment that Sanford Stadium is. So I think the game day crew and the game day staff heard that. And they were like, all right, we got to up our game. And they did on Saturday night, man. They 100% did. That place it is now, and it should be lauded as one of the hardest places to play, not just because you have to play that program and you have to play Kirby Smart and you have to play the 5 stars that he loads up on the other side, but because the environment is going to be juiced up. They're going to be hungry. They're going to bark at you. They're going to be a bunch of grown ass adults barking at you. And I love it. I love it.
You do, but we certainly do not. If you want to jump in, I know we got a bunch of people jumping in here on the show. If you want to chime in your thoughts on Tennessee versus Georgia, if you're a Tennessee fan, what do you think they need to do moving forward? If you're a Georgia fan, how excited are you about this win? And Joseph, just kind of talking about the environment and talking about playing in the SEC and playing, at night at Sanford Stadium, and the Georgia fans been thirsting for a game like this. The thing that sort of resonated with me after this game, listening to Kirby talk right after the game on the field and then Heupel in the post game, was that there was a lot of real mutual respect between both coaches. It's really difficult to play in this league. It's really hard to play in the SEC. It's really hard to win in the SEC. They were both talking about how their programs are both quality programs, both quality teams. They played tooth and nail going into halftime, and then obviously it was just the 2 touchdowns that Georgia was able to put up in that second half that was the difference. And Tennessee really could never get any momentum going. They couldn't, make the big plays as we were talking about. But Mig, it really stood out to me how both of those coaches were really talking about the mutual respect and how I know the SEC, it almost was sounding like the way that they were talking, it was like, hey, the SEC doesn't get enough respect, but we all know that the SEC gets a ton of due respect, around college football. So much so that some other conferences believe it's too much and there's SEC bias and things like that. But talk to me about your thoughts on just the mutual respect between these 2 coaches, the programs, and how freaking hard it is truly to win in the SEC and just those environments. I know you've played in the Pride of the Southland, so you've been a part of those environments as well.
Come on. I have been a part of those environments, man. They said I was a the most athletic, mellophone player this side of the Mississippi.
There's no doubt about it.
There's
No
no
doubt in my
doubt
mind.
about it, man. With a nice chiseled jawline and a hoop earring with a cross on it. That boy looked like Travis Kelce out there. Nah, seriously, getting back on topic. The SEC is by far the hardest conference in football. I know the Big Ten is trying to create the Super League that is, has a few teams, right? You got Oregon, Ohio State, Indiana, which we'll get into hopefully on the show.
Oh, we sure will.
Penn
I got some.
State. I mean,
We
there's a lot,
got some things to talk about with the top 25, but keep going.
there's a lot of love there, but it's not the SEC, man. And I know NIL's trying to level the playing field. It's not. I mean, week in after week out, if you stuck in Indiana and or in Oregon or I'd even go as far as like a Michigan. I mean, it would be hard for some teams to really get 9 wins. It is tough to play in the SEC, specifically on the road. You're noticing, to me, and I saw somebody tweet this out, there should be 5 teams in the SEC in the college football playoff, but there will probably only be 4. Right? I think that Alabama, Georgia, and Tennessee are all interchangeable. You have Texas, and I think Ole Miss literally should get the nod as well. One of those teams is going to be lost in the cold, and right now, I truly, as much as I hate to say it, I think it is Tennessee.
You think Tennessee's going to get left out in the cold?
I do.
What, at 10-2?
It's just that Arkansas loss
No way.
is really bad. I know
No
Ole Miss lost to Kentucky, and it's a horrible loss. I mean, they should not be, but
Did they not lose to Kentucky at home, or was it at Kentucky?
It was at home. It was a
So
bad
see, that's
loss.
the worst loss to me. If you had to compare losses, that's the worst loss.
But they beat the team that beat Tennessee, right? And that's something that you have to consider. Is that all right? Like Georgia lost to Alabama, which either it was a coin flip, and who else did Georgia lose to? Ole Miss, right? Well, Ole Miss lost to Kentucky. Kentucky played Georgia very, very well. 13-12 easily could have swung in Kentucky's favor, if not for a called back penalty on a pick 6. But Tennessee just lost this game very late in the season, and this is a "what have you done for me lately" type of system. And I just think Tennessee might not be the beneficiary of time, and that's unfortunate. I want to be wrong so badly, and I don't know what Tennessee could do. I don't think you could go put UTSA on, hey, we're going to score 100 points and do like a Kent State thing. But they might need to get 100 scored on them to let the committee know, like, yo, like we are 12 of the best teams in college football. But I don't even think at that point it matters. I really don't.
Well, as of right now, if it ended today, Tennessee would be in.
Well,
Tennessee's in now, right?
Are you looking at the AP poll?
Yeah, I'm just looking strictly at the AP poll. They're at 10.
So here's what you have to worry about, because you are number 10, yes, but you have to allot 2 spots to box you out because of auto bids. Auto bids are the worst. Let me go ahead and throw that out there before anybody else says anything. Can we do this for 2 years and then ditch it? Because it sucks. It sucks. Like, I'm sorry that you are not playing the same brand of football. BYU, I love you. You guys are great. BYU, you're awesome. Y'all are a fantastic story. You are not playing the same level of football that was played between 2 teams in Athens, Georgia on Saturday night. You're just not. And I have no problem admitting that. And I love BYU, and I love their story, and I love SMU, and I love what they're doing. But we don't have to. We can love what they are and love what those teams are and what they're doing this year, and also acknowledge that they are not playing the same level of football.
So even if they win a conference championship, they shouldn't be in.
I don't think you should be in because you won your conference.
Gotcha. So
because not every conference is created equal.
You're absolutely right. So let's say let's just say, for example, I'm going to throw a hypothetical at you guys. Say let's say BYU. What would it be? BYU, Colorado? No.
BYU. So BYU lost to Kansas, and they play Arizona State this weekend. If Arizona State beats BYU, then it'll probably be BYU or Arizona State and Colorado.
Okay, either way.
That's a huge game in the Big 12 this weekend.
Yeah, either way. Let's say let's say one team, let's say Colorado goes, however many wins they have, they're top of the conference, and they're clearly the class of the conference. And then you have either BYU, Arizona State, whatever. Just because one of those two teams, and let's say they upset Colorado, again, does it mean they should get that automatic bid like you're talking about?
No, because someone has to win the conference. You have to win the conference. And dude, what that is by no means to discount if Colorado wins out and they're 11-2, that is by no means to discount what Dion has done, because what he's done to that program, he's completely flipped that program on its head in like record time. I mean, we're talking about a team that 2 years ago was 1-11.
It's like what Kurt Signetti is doing with Indiana.
Absolutely.
What Kurt Signetti's doing with Indiana is good, but it's still not the same level of flip that Dion's. Like, Indiana was okay, and they had the Michael Penix years, and they weren't bottom of the barrel Big Ten like Colorado was. Colorado was bottom of the barrel Pac-12. And that's like borderline G5 territory. So for him to flip them the way he has, to pretty much going into a new conference and probably has a very good shot to win that conference, is incredible. But if we're going to box out someone like Tennessee, who's played, 3 or 4 top 25 teams,
Yep.
just because they didn't win a conference that someone had to win, I don't agree with that. I don't. And it's the same thing with Indiana. I love what Kurt Signetti's doing. I'm all about smoking the cigs, and it's awesome. But if they lose to Ohio State this weekend, and especially if they get blown out, you're done. You're done. Pack it up. Go play in a nice bowl game. You don't belong in this 12-team playoff. Because by the time
what if
Indiana
they lose? What if they lose? What if they lose a close game?
I think they have to beat Ohio State.
Why?
Because by the time Indiana finishes their schedule, they will have played the bottom 8 teams of the Big Ten. Like, bottom of the barrel, 18 through 10, that's who Indiana's played. They don't have a win to hang their hat on. If you lose to what is by far the best team on your schedule, you're out. I'm not going to take you over teams that got dealt a worse hand by their conference front office. And is that Indiana's fault? No. Is there anything Indiana can do to that? Beat Ohio State?
They can't do anything about Michigan being a little down this year. They can't do anything about Washington being a little average this year as well. Michigan State being down. Like, they're playing and beating every single team on their schedule, and they're beating them pretty handily. Like, except for Michigan last week, they're beating them pretty handily. Like, I get what you're saying, that yes, for all intents and purposes, they need to beat or really, really compete and push Ohio State to the brink. If they don't at least do that, I agree, they shouldn't get it.
I think they have to beat them. And if anybody looks at me and they says, well, you can't let their season come down to one game, it happened for Georgia last year.
Yeah,
it sure did.
You went 12-0. You lost by 4 points or 3 points to Alabama, and you got left out.
Yeah.
Why can't we leave Indiana out? They don't have wins better than Tennessee. They don't have wins better than Miami. They don't have wins better than SMU or BYU. They don't have wins better than Notre Dame.
Yeah.
As much as me and Notre Dame are butting heads right now, because I'm going to hold that Northern Illinois loss against you. If nobody else is going to do it, I'm going to do it. I just, like, put Indiana's resume against anybody else. Give Indiana Georgia's schedule.
They're not undefeated right now.
They're 500. They're 500, dude. We're talking about Clemson, Alabama, Texas, Ole Miss, and Tennessee. Would you take them to beat any of those teams? I'll give you Clemson. I would give them the win over Clemson. Would you take them to beat those other 4 teams?
I wouldn't take them to beat them, but I think they could find a way to compete in some of the games. I don't think they'll get blown every single game, but they can find a way to compete.
That's fair. But we can't be slotting teams on their believed ability to compete.
But again, you can only play the schedule that you play. But it comes down to the committee having the balls to say if they lose to Ohio State and they finish 11-1, 12-1, whatever it
11
is.
and 1.
Yep, going into the conference, they wouldn't even make the conference title game, correct? Nope. Right? Because
it'd be Ohio State and Oregon.
In Oregon, yeah. Mm-hmm. So like you finish at 11-1, you have to have the balls to say, hey, look, there are other teams that might be 10-2 that have played a better schedule, have played better opponents, and that are just better than you, even if you have a better record.
Well, it's not even that. It's outside of their own conference, because then they become, if Indiana loses to Ohio State, then they become compared to Penn State, because the Big Ten, they're not going to get 4 teams in. There's too many good teams for the Big Ten to take up 4 spots this year. So now if you're Indiana, you're going to be compared to Penn. Like, say Ohio State and Oregon both make the Big Ten title game, they're both in. Like, if Oregon's 12-0 and Ohio State's 11-1, doesn't matter. They're both in. All at this point, who we're playing for is who gets the first round bye. Then it's Indiana and Penn State. And it's like, okay, well, you both share the same loss in Ohio State. At that point, it comes down to, well, how did you lose? Okay, Indiana, you played on the road, so you get some bonus points for that. But Penn State, you were 1 score away. Okay, who's got better wins now? And I don't think Indiana wins that case against Penn State.
And here's another thing, Jay, that when you look at Indiana and Penn State, the precedent has already been set with Penn State being ranked ahead of Indiana. So if Indiana loses, let's say they lose by the same score, even though it's on the road, inevitably they're not going to just, even if Penn State beats Minnesota, they're not going to just say, well, they lost on the road by 7, just like Penn State did. They're not going to rank Indiana over Penn State.
No.
So like Indiana, I think you're absolutely right. They have to win this game if they want to make the playoffs.
Indiana has a 1-game season, and it's this Saturday. And it sucks. It sucks that the Big Ten scheduled Indiana, which, of course, how do you see this coming? You don't. If you're the Big Ten, you don't think, oh, well, Indiana's going to go on a 11-0 run or a 10-0 run leading into the Ohio State game. So let's give them Oregon. Let's give them Washington or Iowa or somebody a little bit beefier in the Big Ten, a little bit more respect than playing, the bottom 8 teams. And I'm hopeful that Indiana finds a way into their playoffs, because I would love for them to make a trip down to Athens and, just see what happens.
And get that ass whooped. Call it what it is. Call it what it is. As I sit here pondering and listening to you guys, it is frustrating to no end that we reward teams for playing Burger King Tech, ITT College, and Little Caesars University. What are we doing? They ain't played nobody, Paul. They ain't played nobody.
They ain't. Talk to them, Mig.
All right. So it's just like, man, do not fault an SEC team for having to go on the road and play in a hostile environment in front of the best players in college football. I love my guy. He's a Heisman Trophy winner by the name of Travis Hunter. It's about 10 Travis Hunters. What's your boy's name? He has a really cool name, Jay. It starts with an N, and he's down there at Georgia.
Oh, put some respect. I've been caught, bro. Natarion Nitro Tuggle, baby.
Yes.
I've wanted this man to play all season. And I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one, man. Georgia fans have been clamoring for him to play. And he finally gets a chance. And what does he do? Catches the first pass thrown to him, dude. Now, I will say he did mess up a little bit on the deep ball. He got to fade that out a little bit more. But I'll take it, man. I'll take it. There's promise. My boy's got to get more playing time, man.
Yeah, and he will, because he looked phenomenal. The Dogs look phenomenal. And this top 25 is not phenomenal. But hopefully tomorrow or whenever, the committee decides to grace us with their presence, we will see. But my optimism is decreasing by the day. So
yeah, I have very little faith in this committee to do the right thing, and I think that's just. I feel like that's based on precedent. I mean, I'm very worried about the decisions they're going to make. I mean, if we're going to, while we're still on the rankings and coming off talking about the Georgia-Tennessee game, as far as where Tennessee goes from here, I think you guys got to be the biggest Texas haters on the planet.
Most definitely.
Because
Texas has got to lose.
if Texas will not even just lose, like if Texas loses to A&M, I think that's really your shot. If Texas loses to A&M, I don't think they make. And forgive me for not knowing the tiebreakers off the top of my head, but I believe if they lose to Texas A&M, I don't think they met the SEC title game. And then at that point, if you're looking at Texas's resume, their best wins at Vandy. So then it becomes a resume comparison and a loss comparison between you and Tennessee, realistically. Okay, you have a mutual loss, but Texas, you got blown out at home. Tennessee, you went on the road. And then obviously Tennessee's going to have the worst loss, losing to Arkansas, but we have to see how Texas looks in that A&M game. I think there's a legitimate argument. If Texas loses to A&M, they don't have a signature win to hang their hat on like Tennessee would, saying, well, we beat Alabama. And yeah, we lost to Georgia, but Alabama beat Georgia.
Yep.
So
exactly right.
We have one of the best wins in the nation. I think you guys got to be pulling for Texas' downfall.
All right. Do you want the tiebreakers?
Let's hear
Yes, please.
All right. Here's step one of the tiebreakers, okay? And you guys can parse this out better than I can because I was just trying to look out the tiebreakers. So step one is head-to-head competition. This is the easiest tiebreaker. Did Team A beat Team B? Okay. Step two, record versus all common conference opponents.
So pretty much strength of record at that point.
Pretty much.
Because, yeah, so it would be, who you beat and what their combined record is, which I think goes to Tennessee because of the Alabama win.
Yep.
Because Texas's only win that they have any kind of flex on to this point is Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt is their best win on the road. Yep. And by no means am I trying to discount what Vandy is this year because they're not typical Vandy. So when you say their best win's Vanderbilt, it's a little bit different than it is in normal years, but it's still not the same as beating Alabama at home.
Yeah, exactly. All right, step three, record against highest or best placed common conference opponent in the conference standings and proceeding through the conference standings among tied teams. Does that make sense?
Read that again.
Record against the best or highest placed common conference opponent in the conference standings and proceeding through the conference standings among tied teams.
So that also would go to Tennessee because Texas's highest ranked win in the SEC. We're all assuming, everything I'm basing my argument off right now is assuming that Texas loses to Texas A&M, which is not it's not a fair assumption. It's not something I'm assuming. I haven't picked that game. We haven't broke that game down. Like that's totally just for the basis of what we're talking about right now, assuming Texas loses to Texas A&M. Their best win in the standings would be probably at that point, Vandy would have lost to Tennessee. So Tennessee has another win that Texas, they matched the best win that Texas has.
Yeah.
And then they
got one.
They have the Alabama win, man.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to be a top 3 team in the conference. And then you compare the loss. It's like, well, you lost on the road by less points than Texas did at home. I think you'd get the nod there. Now these are the tiebreakers. What we're talking about are the tiebreakers for the SEC title game, but I'm talking about from a playoff perspective. If you have to pick between Texas and Tennessee, I think Tennessee would get the nod.
Yes. And then here's step 4, cumulative conference winning percentages of all conference opponents among tied teams.
Gosh, this is really not in Texas.
This is so complicated. It's not at all, Jay.
It's not in Texas. Because, dude, I mean, Mississippi State has a losing record. Oklahoma has a losing record. Florida are they 500 with the LSU loss now? Or are they won?
They're 500, I believe.
So a 500 Florida team. Vanderbilt has a winning record. And then you've beaten Arkansas. You're going to play Kentucky. So A&M, Texas is going to hang their hat on that A&M game. Like that game is monumental for them.
So Texas basically has a one-game season too.
2-game season. They did play Georgia. That to this point, they have a 1-game season.
That's what I'm saying. Like right now.
Georgia, yeah, for sure.
Let's see. Florida is 5-5. They're 3-4 in conference.
Okay.
All right. Step 5. capped relative total scoring margin versus all conference opponents among the tied teams.
I don't know if we'll get that far.
Yeah.
I don't know if we'll get to that.
And then step 6 is random draw.
Yeah, that's egregious. We would even do that, dude. Like, I was such a big fan of them ditching divisions. And then now that we have like 20 teams in a league, I know it's not really 20, but now it's like, oh, divisions kind of make sense now.
Yeah.
Because then you could just load up, play your whole division, and you could actually, like, all you would have to do is fairly separate the divisions now, because the SEC East for a long time was just not as good as the SEC West. So you have a chance to redo that. I don't think we ever will. I don't think we'll go back to divisions, but scheduling's got to get somewhat better, because we have this huge logjam in the SEC, and we also have the Big Ten conundrum where Penn State, Oregon, and Indiana don't play each other. Of course, there's this huge wrench in their way, and that's Ohio State, but who is somehow going to play all 3 of those teams.
Yeah.
I personally think you have to go back to divisions.
Do what?
I think you personally, I think you have to go back to divisions. We need to figure this out.
The Big Ten, it's going to be real. Like, I don't think this is the only time this is ever going to happen at the Big Ten.
No.
Because it's just, you have so many teams.
Okay, well, with that being said, let's move through the rest of our core 4 from this past weekend. Speaking on LSU and Florida, how about that one? How about my boy Billy Napier? Pulling it out, baby, in the swamp. Let's go. Brian Kelly
DJ
coming up small.
Lagway.
Per usual.
Listen, boys, DJ Lagway and Jordan Ball, I think I said his last name right,
you did,
are going to be a problem. They are going to be a problem. Florida's surging. And it's one of those things, looking at Florida now and just hop in a time machine and jump back 12 months. And you look at Florida and it's like, they're not heading in a good direction. Billy's probably going to get fired, and Florida State's on top of the world. And you move forward 12 months and Florida State's 1-9. And Florida's not great. Don't get me wrong. They're not great, but they're building momentum. They just landed the 2025 D lineman today. DJ Lagway looks like what he was pitched to be.
Yes.
And you think to yourself, how did this happen? How did Florida State go from being on top of the world in the state of Florida? Because somebody in the state of Florida has to step up. I'm tired of the state of Florida being mediocre in general. Like, somebody's got to step up. And Miami's kind of surging, but we don't know what they're going to be without Cam Ward. We don't know what they're going to do next year. We thought Florida State was going to carry all this transfer portal momentum into high school recruiting. That hasn't happened. They're a dumpster fire, and they're losing recruits. So now it's like a double-edged sword. And it looks like Florida might come out pretty decent in what we thought they were going to get left behind with Miami recruiting the way they were, and Florida State, prayers up for Jordan Travis. I was still tragic to see. Florida State moving into what was, an undefeated season and an ACC title. You thought Florida's going to get left in the dust. And now here we are. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if Mike Norvell's going to be at Florida State in 2 years. I don't know if Billy Napier is going to be at Florida in 2 years. I'm pretty sure Mario Cristobal is still going to be at Miami. But how good are they going to be next? Like, one of these programs, please, for the love of God, just get your shit together and be consistent for like a few years. I need something, man, because this coaching carousel that's happened in Florida is just.
I don't know. I feel like the man to my, what is this, my left, on the screen here, he would not like to see the whole state of Florida having success.
No, Florida could literally be 0-12 and I'd be fine with my life.
Yeah, but that's the Gators. Like,
yeah.
About Miami and Florida State.
When it comes to Florida State, I mean, everybody knew it was kind of fool's gold. And now it's just like, Nick Saban, he went to practice this past summer. He was like, Oh, well, this is where all my guys that couldn't crack the starting lineup ended up. Well, there's a reason, fellas. You're seeing it right now. They might not have been very good, you know? And now you're looking at obviously Miami and the Cam Ward effect, which Miami's always had some pieces, right? There's some stars throughout, but there's also, some guys that have gotten better this year. And I think Cam Ward is the embodiment of what it means. I mean, you literally go from JUCO, no stars, grind your way out, go to a lesser college in Washington State, grind it out there, and then now you end up on the biggest stage and probably in New York for a Heisman Trophy presentation. That's just what it's about, and I think he's setting the blueprint for other quarterbacks that are a bit disgruntled in really bad situations right now. I think you're going to see open season moving forward, specifically for the quarterback position. But to answer your question in totality, I do not want the Florida Gators to be good. I think Miami's going to continue surging. Mario Cristobal has coached very well this year, given his blunders in the past. And Florida State, unless they make a call for some Louis Vuitton luggage, I think they're gonna stay exactly where they're at right
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, but I personally was very happily surprised that Florida was actually able to pull this one out at home against the Bayou Bengals, if you will. And plus, we saw Jalen Milroe like cut up LSU on the ground. And with DJ Lagway's athleticism, I really thought that that's how they were going to attack LSU as well. And they just didn't do that. He didn't really run the football in this game, which I thought was very interesting.
Yeah. Oh, dude, he's got a great deep ball, though.
Yeah, he does. It was great to have Elijah Badger back.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And
he was big.
We thought his name has escaped me, but they had a running back go down early in the season. We thought that was going to be a huge loss, but man,
Montrell Johnson.
Montrell Johnson, yeah.
He came back and ran the football a couple times in this game. I think he's kind of eased his way back. Yeah.
Okay.
I think this was his first time coming back.
We thought that would be a much bigger void for them. And then Jordan Ball was just like, no, man, I got it. I can run the rock.
And he didn't even run that much.
But he's just been a nice surprise for Florida as a whole, as a fill in the void of their running back position. Man, I just need, if I ever, and I said this on Thursday, that was the last time I'm picking LSU to win a game. I'm going to start fading Brian Kelly because I faded Brian Kelly at Notre Dame a lot. And I don't know why, for some reason, when he decided to get a Cajun accent and move into the purple and gold suite, I thought that was going to change. But it hasn't. I don't know what's wrong with LSU. I don't know. I mean, if you look at the box score for that game, they outgained Florida. I don't understand what's going on. How are you get absolutely just drug at home by Alabama, and then you can't get off the mat to beat what is a down, like this is if Billy Napier stays at Florida, this is probably the worst they're going to be over the next few years. And you couldn't take advantage of that. You're Brian Kelly, you're LSU. This is what you came to this conference to do, was to coach better players. And you're getting your ass whipped. You should have lost to South Carolina. And now I don't let me do it. Don't let me do it again. Don't let me pick him again. Don't let me pick LSU again. Yeah.
I got to tell you something real quick, man.
Yeah, please.
He didn't come to coach better players, man. He came for some zeros. That's it,
dude.
That's it. LSU, they got it wrong. It's all right. This job is bigger than Brian Kelly. You have got to do better. I'm telling you, if it was not for Ed Orgeron actually being an elite recruiter, we would be looking at LSU as a very weird program. They have not been relevant since Les Miles, outside of what I call an asterisk. That 2019 team was crazy. We'll never see that again in life. I mean, that was our Miami Hurricane team of the last decade. They were the best team I've seen. I mean, and their defense wasn't even that good. I just think that Brian Kelly he saw the writing on the wall. Notre Dame, hey, this is a good job, but I'm not going to win. I think he wants to win, but also money talks.
Of course.
That buyout is awful. I mean, him and Norvell, they might have Rich Paul as an agent because all that dude does is get people paid. I truly do think that
When is he
LSU is
taking on
stuck.
Chatt It Up?
Hey, Rich Paul, if you hear me, brother, listen. I'll throw out the silencer like I'm Braun right now. You're getting the dog. No, but seriously, man, I just really do not think that LSU has the bandwidth to get it right. But if I'm looking at Colorado and Dion, I'm like, all right, LSU and Deion Sanders scares the hell out of me.
Dude, the moment that LSU gets that hire right, the moment they get that hire right, it should scare the hell out of everybody. Because year in and year out, that team is loaded with NFL players. They're loaded with talent. And the in-state recruiting is incredible. And it seems like they just can't get it right. I mean, how many head coaches have done a stint there and won a national title? Brian Kelly will be the first in the last since Nick Saban. Nick Saban went there, won a title, left. Les Miles comes in there, wins a title, gets fired. Edo comes in there, wins a title, gets fired. How many other programs do you know are cycling through head coaches like that where they're winning a national title and then shipping them a buyout check? The answer's none.
It's crazy. It's only LSU?
And dude, it was one of those things where when they were talking about it, when they were talking about moving on from Edo, I was like, oh, dude, they're going to go hire Napier. He's in Louisiana. He knows those kids. They're going to go get him. And then they hired Brian Kelly. And I was like, weirdly, that could work. I was like, he's had success at Notre Dame. Notre Dame's definitely harder to have success at than LSU because of the academic standards, and it's cold. No one wants to go play in South Bend in December when it's snowing. It's not the same as playing in Florida where it's 60 in December, or playing at LSU where it's not snowing. And he's dropped the ball, man. And it's one of those things where at Notre Dame, I think you could have gotten away with this. You could get away with getting down a year, and then you build yourself back up and you rip out a 10-2 season. Then you rip out another 11-1 season. You get blown out in the playoffs, and you're consistently making it there, but you're also not playing the same schedule. You're not playing the same players week in and week out. You come to LSU, and it's not the cushy job you thought. It's not the, we're going to be able to get the best players. You're competing against the most competitive coaching staffs in the nation. Week in and week out, for recruits, it's hard to win in the SEC. It's the same thing we talked about just a few minutes ago. And Brian Kelly's finding out firsthand that you have to be elite to win consistently. And LSU and LSU's boosters and this fan base, they will not put up with that. They will not put up with these, we're building towards a conference run, but we got to get these players in and give them about 3 years, give them about 2 years, let them get developed. LSU's not going to put up with that. Not with the way that they can bring in talent, not with the dedication that they have, not with the buy-in that fan base gives week in and week out. They will fire your ass and ship you off back to Notre Dame and hire somebody else.
Bam! Well said, Jay.
I know that's right.
Yeah. All right, Ash Nicole.
Hey, shout out Ash Nicole, man. All right, get her off my program.
Yeah, so that was a big game. Billy Napier, big win for him, his program, the tenure there in Florida, and a bad loss for Brian Kelly. And we'll see what happens. I wouldn't foresee them firing him after this year, and again writing another buyout check. But something's got to change. Something's got to happen. And Billy is saving his job one win at a time here. He could lose these next couple of games, but as long as he beats Florida State and gets bowl eligible, then he will be, he'll be ready and raring to come back. But if he loses that game against Florida State at the end of the year,
oh god,
he'll be out of Florida for sure.
Burn the boats, man. They'll leave him. They'll leave him. Like, I just want to say it. I just want to get it out there. The last time a highly ranked Ole Miss team went into the swamp. They got their tails kicked. They got shipped
I hope
home.
that happens again. I would love Florida to beat Ole Miss's ass. Get them
I'm
up
just
out of the
saying.
playoff picture.
I'm just saying. I'm
Come
not saying
on,
it's
Florida.
going to
Come
happen
on,
this
Billy. Help us
Saturday.
out, baby.
I'm just saying.
Help us out, baby.
You know,
Y'all think Ole Miss is not going to wake up for this game?
Oh, I fully expect Ole Miss to win this game. But I'm
Ole
just
Miss is
saying, I was
absolutely
just throwing that little nugget out there. Last time a highly ranked Ole Miss team went into the swamp, they didn't come out highly ranked.
I will say, though, Florida has been playing lights out the last month and can play with damn near everybody but about 5 teams.
And I think what the biggest surprise to me is, we've talked about DJ Lagway and Baugh and Badger and things like that. But you look at this defense, they are getting after people. They had 11 tackles for loss. They were living in the backfield like Grant Nussmeier. He was living a nightmare on Saturday. LSU's defense, on the other hand, had 1 singular tackle for loss. So that means the offensive line has been playing much better for Florida, and their defensive line has been getting consistent pressure, consistent penetration. I'm not going to go to the rest of it, but it's been real good for Florida and Rob Roberts, and they're doing a really good job out there in Florida. And it's been a nice little turnaround. Like we've talked about this at length, that this could have been something where they could have just said, "F it, the season's over. We're not going to continue to fight." But Billy Napier came out after that game in his press conference today and said, "Hey, we need to continue to fight and have that playoff type mentality because they have an opportunity to play spoiler here. They have an opportunity with Ole Miss, as you mentioned, Jay, coming to the swamp to wreck the Rebels' playoff hopes."
They could absolutely just destroy.
And that's what they're gunning for.
That's what they want. That's what they want. And to finish it, I mean, if Billy goes 7-5 against this schedule, and we talked about it. We talked about it in the preseason, man. If he somehow managed to go, I think we had set the bar at 6-6 or 5 wins. That would be a success. If he gets to 7-5, you can't ask for much more.
Can't.
As a Florida fan. And be realistic. Obviously, if you're a psycho, you can ask for, well, we should have been 10-2. Brother, anybody that actually understands what's happening here knows that 7-5 is a huge success of a season.
7-5 is a huge
if they manage.
success.
Yeah.
That's
100%.
huge for Bill and Napier. I mean,
yeah.
I told y'all this a couple months ago. I counted 4 wins on this schedule. I did.
And they already got 5.
And they got 5. Like, it is – and they easily could have beat Tennessee. I was there. Let's call it what it is. If he would have went for 2, he would have got it.
Dude, they were on their way to beating Georgia.
So, like,
they played tough. They played tough.
Real tough.
Yeah, shout out to them. And it doesn't surprise me one bit knowing that man. And I was glad that he is, as of right now, not getting run out of Florida. How much stock did you guys put into Texas only beating Arkansas 20-10? Did y'all put a lot of stock in that? Are you reading too much into it, or is it, hey, Texas got to win, let's move on?
I'm kind of Texas. It's a noon game against Arkansas. Arkansas has a disproportionate level of hate for Texas, so they were going to be fired up for that game. I think you kind of got a bigger swing from Arkansas than they've probably given some other teams.
Yeah.
So I'm not reading into it too much. I think it's one of those things where it's like, Texas, you're playing an away noon game, get a win and get out.
Personally, I think that, I watched this game in its entirety on Saturday. Texas didn't look great, but also I do think for some reason they're going to get got, and I think it's going to happen in Kyle Field. I really do. They just, to me, that is a bad situation waiting to happen in a couple of days. Going on the road against your arch rival that has been dying. When I say dying, they've been dying to play you. I mean, hasn't happened. Jay, how long has it been since A&M and Texas have played? Was that 7-8 years?
Oh, it's been no, I think it's been longer than that. I don't remember the last time they played because they haven't. I don't think they've played since Texas joined or since A&M joined the SEC, and that was 2012. So we're probably looking at like 15 years here.
I mean,
since the
this
last
is
time they
one of the
played.
biggest rivalries in all of college football. And
Yeah,
these guys have had to just deal with
They
Texas.
haven't played since November 24th, 2011. Texas won 27-25.
so that was the year before A&M joined the SEC.
Yeah.
So
And Texas has always been big brother. And, if you got a big brother, you're doing everything you can to make sure he knows that he ain't big dog. I'm big dog. Therefore, that game is going to be monumental. I think Texas, they need to clean some stuff up. They don't look crispy. They don't look good heading into what I think is going to be the biggest trap game. A lot of top-rated teams. Tennessee is not immune to this. Vanderbilt is a trap game. You mess around with Diego Pavi if you want to. He'll look like Johnny Manziel, but educated.
Wait, a trap game to what? What are they getting trapped from? That's the last game of the year.
Yeah, but thinking you're just going to walk into an SEC title.
Exactly.
game.
They're not. I don't think they're going to be thinking of that. There's nothing beyond that. It's, hey, we're focusing on Vanderbilt. This is our mission. We need to take care of business.
But we're Tennessee. We're Texas.
We're going to be fine.
No, but I'm saying that's the mentalities. We're Tennessee. We're not going to lose Vanderbilt. Okay.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like Heupel is going to have those boys ready to roll. Like, hey, our playoff chances are on the line. There's no looking past anybody. This is the last game of the year. Go to Nashville, kick their ass, and let's get in playoffs.
Yeah,
I don't see that being a narrative.
I think Texas is going to get up for this game. The first thing on my radar right now is Texas's inconsistencies with running the ball. I know they looked better running the ball against Arkansas last week, but this stretch, this last month, this of November, is where really that loss of CJ Baxter early in the season starts to show up. Where you're just trying to make it through the season, you're getting those last couple of games in. Everybody's kind of beat up at this point, but Texas A&M, and we saw this in the LSU game, that's not really a team you want to go in to face and be questionable at running the ball, because that D-line is vicious.
Yep.
And just the same way that I talked about Arkansas has a disproportionate level of hate for Texas, you probably got their best punch. Just wait till it's Kyle Field, man, because you put everything I said about Arkansas and you up that to 10, Texas A&M has probably the most, outside of maybe Oklahoma, depending on which fan base you ask, Texas A&M probably has the most disproportionate hate for Texas. And you are by far going to catch their best punch. It's going to be an incredible game. Absolutely. I can't wait.
Since 2000, they've played 12 times. Texas is 9-3 against Texas A&M. Both of these teams, I believe, will get up for this game. Texas is going to know if they beat Kentucky this coming weekend that, hey, look, this is a game in which we absolutely have to have. It's going to be a battle. Texas A&M is going to feel the same urgency as well. That's going to be a battle. I can't wait for that game. But our last game on the slate for the core four to talk about, we don't have to spend too much time talking about this. Colorado at home just wrecks Utah, and it was a classic Heisman moment, Mig, for you talking about Travis Hunter. He was freaking awesome in this game, and I mean, they were talking about it on the radio today. I was listening, and it's just so incredible that it really is the Deion effect. And I know, Jay, you were talking about it earlier, how he's turned around this program, and Miggy, you've talked a lot about it on this show as well. But you really think about it. This man, Travis Hunter, was committed to go to Florida State. Mike Norvell had him. He decommits. He goes to an HBCU in Jackson State.
Jackson State.
Talk to him, Greg.
He follows Deion.
Talk to him, Greg.
You know what? There must have been conversations. There had to have been conversations had to say, hey, look, here's my plan, Trav. Trust in me. Come to Jackson State. It's an HBCU. We're going to make some history here. But then after a couple years, after we have success, I'm going to get a bigger job. I'm going to take you there. You're going to play both ways. I'm going to allow you to play both ways, and you're going to win the Heisman Trophy on a team that's going to be really good wherever I'm going to be. My son is going to be the quarterback. My other son's going to be in the secondary. I'm going to get a bunch of transfers. We're going to make this thing work, and we're just going to ride off into the sunset. And it has worked out as beautifully, as long as Colorado doesn't stumble these last couple of weeks and they win a conference championship, it is going to work out exactly how Neon Dion had wanted it to work out from the very beginning when he took that job and got Travis Hunter from Florida State to go to Jackson State.
Greg, the way you just put that in, I felt like, man, Tyler Perry needs to produce it and I need to be casted as an O-lineman, brother.
Come on.
Put that on BET. Nah, that's real life. This is real LIFE. All right? That's what we talking about. Travis Hunter, Heisman Trophy winner. What is an Ashton Jeanty? What is that?
Whoa. Don't discredit my boy now.
What is Ashton?
Listen, we can appreciate both the seasons they're having.
You're right.
Okay?
You're right.
We got love for both. Listen, we take the stance, or at least I'll take the stance. If as long as it's one of those two guys winning the Heisman, you won't hear a peep out of me. You won't hear any complaints. Especially if Ashton breaks Barry Sanders' record. If one of those two guys wins the Heisman, there you go, guys. We got it right this year.
But if he doesn't, there's absolutely no way it shouldn't be Travis Hunter.
Oh, dude. I think it should be at this point. The way the season's going, I think it should be Travis. Now, I don't want to discount what Ashton Jeanty's doing, though, man. He's chasing a record that's over 30 years old. Like,
I joke around a lot. Ashton Jeanty has been amazing. He really has been. I've caped for Dylan Sampson. It's not the same though. Like, I'm looking at these stats. It's just not the same.
It's about time.
No, go ahead.
There's something I saw somebody bring up on social media that said that they were criticizing like the number of tackles that Travis had, and I thought to myself, and I got to thinking about it, and I was like, okay, I can understand why you would see that and be like, well, he only has 27 tackles on the season or something like that. I think it was 27 or 29 was the number. And then they were comparing it to one of the Boise State players that had like 11 tackles in a game. And I thought to myself, okay, so let's think about this from a football standpoint. He's a corner. He's playing corner. He's more than likely lining up on their number one, whoever they're playing. If he's not making tackles, there's probably one of two things happening. The ball's going away from him because they don't want to throw it to him because he's shutting down one side of the field. Or Colorado's run defense isn't letting a whole lot of runs get to the outside or get to the second level, which are both great things for Colorado. And if it's the first thing where they're not even testing his side of the field because they don't want to risk it, then that even further bolsters his campaign. Because it's like, well, he only has this few many tackles on the season because nobody's testing him. What do you expect him to do? Run all the way across the 52.5 yards and make a tackle? That's just ridiculous. That's just not realistic. So like
it is.
It felt a bit like a bit of a picked stat where they were like, well, he doesn't have that many tackles. It's like, well, have we dug into the film to see why he's not getting these tackles? Like, because he's not afraid of contact. You can't be if you're playing 100 and something snaps a game. So it's got to be one of these other reasons. It's got to be either his side of the field's not getting tested or Colorado's run defense is good enough to where he's not in a position to make tackles often enough. So I'm not going to hold that against him, but that's just me. As far as analysis for the game goes, this is one of those things where Isaac Wilson's not great, but I don't want to say Isaac Wilson's not great and take away from Colorado handling business, because this is what good teams do: is you beat teams you're supposed to beat. You handle business, and Colorado very much did that. The biggest takeaway for me from this game actually isn't from the game itself. It's BYU losing later that night and Arizona State beating Kansas State, because now, as long as Colorado continues to win, we have a big showdown this weekend with Arizona State and BYU. That could, and Arizona State doesn't play Colorado. That could be your Big 12 title game.
Yep.
Arizona State and Colorado. So the Big 12 is getting real interesting down to the wire, man.
How awful is Kansas State, man? They are such frauds. They're fraudulent.
they're 7-3, so they're not horrible, but they're not. I don't. Avery Johnson was a 4-star quarterback.
Yep.
Okay, he was a 4-star quarterback. That man, at least to this point, from what I have seen, has been pretty much a glorified running back. I mean, he had 2 picks against Arizona State. He ran the ball 6 times for 21 yards. He had 258 yards passing, but no touchdowns and 2 picks. I don't know. It feels like if Kansas State's not running him, they're not having success. And I don't know. You know, they were my preseason Big 12 title winner. My Big 12 title game preseason prediction has gone up in smoke because one of them is now 7-3, and the other one has not won a conference game.
Hey.
So shout out Ollie Gordon and Oklahoma State. But but I'm really excited for the last few weeks of the Big 12 now that we have what is going to be a very interesting conference title game.
Yeah, it's pure chaos, and I love it. There's a lot of chaos going on in college football. Anything else that stood out to you guys from the week? You want to talk about the AP Top 25? Anything that stood out to you there? Anything that surprises you, or anything along those lines?
I gotta say a big thank you to Beamer Ball, man. We can finally tuck Missouri away, and just we can pull them out of the top 25. We don't have to rank them anymore because they were a preseason top 10 team. I really appreciate you, South Carolina. Thank you for just thank you for
They still receive the most votes.
Well, they can receive all the votes to be outside of the top 25 because that team, they have played the best 3 teams they've played this year. They have lost. So get them out. Get them out.
Malcolm, anything?
I don't have anything, brother.
All right, well, let's move. Let's move and shake to the NFL. We've got a game going on right now between the Battle of Texas, the Texans at the Dallas Cowboys, 17-10 right now. The Cowboys are hanging in. Joe Mixon's having a great first half. Cooper Rush actually having a pretty decent first half himself. But let's talk about the games on Sunday. And Meg, I don't think we need to spend too much time on it, but it's just like, look, it's Sean Payton terrorizing the Falcons once again.
Just move on, man. Do what we gotta do.
Dude, what is happening? Like, there is no way y'all should be losing this badly to the Denver Broncos. I get it. It was a mile high, and it was in Denver and whatnot. But this Atlanta Falcons team is too good not to win this division. And for right now, it's kind of up in the air.
The bye could not have come at a better time. I think this team is tired.
To
I think
reset.
they've been through it. I think they just need a hard reset. They need to go to Dave and Buster's and just like bond with one another and like just be like, all right, like we just need to chill. Like we're tired. Like we've been playing a lot of games back to back to back. Good thing for them is that the Saints, we played them. It's done. You still have the Panthers on the schedule, the Bucks, that's done. A lot of games are winnable. They got to get it together, specifically on the defensive side of the ball. I can tell you in the first 5 minutes if the Falcons are going to win the game or not. Literally, what they look like in the first 5 minutes is the identity. I knew it. As soon as Drake London is doing like false starts and they just don't look crispy, and Kyle Pitts looks kind of hungover a little bit, like it's just I knew what it was going to be. And Bo Nix, I'll be the first to tell you, like I clowned the pick. I did. I mean, we saw him in college since 2005. Well, it's a good thing that we saw him in college till 2005. He looked like it. He looked like he was a pro quarterback out there. I mean, he had over 75% completion percentage. It's 4 touchdowns. I mean, he absolutely balled. So I give credit where credit is due. Denver looks great and is poised for a wild card spot, as well as the Chargers. I mean, that AFC West is kind of looking good outside of Vegas. So
Yeah, and I was talking to our boy Andrew, a big Falcons fan from our ESPN Chattanooga Feel Good Friday days, and he made a point to me that look, the pass rush is just absolutely horrendous. Matthew Judon has been a shell of himself, and him and I were talking a little bit about the need was there to potentially go get a Max Crosby or a Myles Garrett, and they didn't do it.
Bro, you want me to be real with you, man? I'll be real with you. All
Always,
right. Matthew Judon sucks.
he's terrible.
All
Washed.
right, man. He sucks, man. Those red sleeves, just going back to wherever. Like
New
it's
England.
we are not giving you a contract, brother. We're just not.
Why do the Falcons just keep trying to throw money at these washed, defensive ends like Calais Campbell? Who was the dude? Bud Dupree, Matthew Judon.
Because they drafted a quarterback in the first round instead of a pass rusher.
There was no real good pass rushers to go out there and get.
I mean, Latu was nice. He wasn't worth the 8th pick. Dallas Turner really not doing much yet. Like, I see why the Falcons did what they did, although I was crushed on draft night, as you guys do remember. I mean, I literally was
Hey,
so
I loved
sad.
the pick. I was a
I
huge
was
fan.
so sad. You calmed me down in that moment, and I really appreciate it.
Michael Penix didn't look bad in the game. 2 for 4, 24 yards.
Hey, he got the call to stop throwing that football. They said, hey, this is the last thing we need as a controversy right now, brother. Hand that ball off.
Yeah, it was bad. But, you look at the Falcons schedule, bro, and like you mentioned, I know they got the bye this week, but you got the Chargers at home. You got to go to the Vikings, who have been a really good defense, the Kirk Cousins revenge game. I'm surprised that game's kind of not in prime time. You got a cake at Las Vegas, but you still have to go on the road in Las Vegas. It's a Monday night football game. Tommy Cutlets is starting now for the Giants, so hopefully you can win that game. The Commanders go into the nation's capital a couple days before New Year's. That's going to be a difficult one. And then you got hopefully a cupcake in the Panthers. So it's not going to be a cakewalk by any means. But as you mentioned, you are already able to take care of the Bucs twice. So you have a little bit of a leg up on them. All I'm saying is, bro, don't lose this division. You cannot lose this division. If you lose this division, it is an absolute travesty, and everybody should be fired.
I don't agree with you. And although everybody should be fired, if you lose this division with this much of a lead, I get it. It is the first year.
I get it. It's Raheem Morris, and I'm being tongue-in-cheek because they're not actually going to fire him. But, that would be an absolute travesty. You bring in a veteran quarterback. You have weapons galore there on offense. You spend money on defense. There's no reason you shouldn't win this division, especially with the best weapons for Tampa Bay down, Carolina being what they are, the Saints being beaten, battered, and bruised.
I'm 100% with you. I am. I just think at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, guys got to make the right plays, right? Defensively, guys have to step up. I mean, our defensive, I hate to say, AJ Terrell got cooked yesterday. Cortland Sutton looked like Megatron for 2.5 quarters. It was really hard to watch. I turned on the Chiefs game. I was really upset. So I get what you're saying, and hopefully they come with it. I'm praying so.
I hope so as well. Man, I just got to go to it because it's my game, but this was a funny one, and I love all of the smoke and everything that came out after the Packers blocked the field goal for the Bears. It was all up there, haven't beaten the Packers since 2018, this, that, and the other thing. And Caleb Williams probably played his best game in this one. But this man also hasn't thrown a touchdown in about 3 or 4 weeks. And he made some throws. He also made some really good reads with his legs. He's actually got some athleticism to him. He can run the football a little bit. He came up big and put the Bears in a position to beat the Packers for the first time since 2018, sort of calm down the Matt Eberflus talk. Instead, with one big paw, the ball gets knocked down and the Packers win, and it turns the heat up even more on Eberflus and Caleb Williams and all that. And I just love the reaction videos on Packers timeline that I get, on my algorithm, and it was pure amazingness as a Packers fan.
I mean, the Packers, man, when I tell you, Josh Jacobs, I was so wrong. I thought he was washed up. I'm like, dude, the Packers absolutely just tried to just flip It's like the meme of the grandpa getting a shirt, and it's like the same shirt for Christmas that he already has on. I don't know if you guys have seen that.
Yeah.
But that's exactly what it felt like to me getting Josh Jacobs. Boy, was I wrong. He's amazing. Caleb Williams, there's time for him to really go and perform. But I do think that again, it's just the Bears are cursed. I don't know. Something has happened in that organization where they just can't get right. Um, so we'll see. I mean, that division. I mean, Detroit looks like they're in a league of their own right now.
They really do.
Yeah, I mean they're just really good, and I want to show some love to Chase real quick. Will Levis is playing winning football. He's not winning games, but he's playing winning football. I would say he is not the reason that they lost to the Vikings. The reason that they lost to the Vikings is because Justin Jefferson is simply just the best player on the field, and he commands a lot of attention. Yesterday, I saw, and I chose this a couple of shows ago. My favorite wide receiver tandem in the league is Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson. Jettis deserves so much attention that Addison is literally just getting one-on-ones with like people's third best cornerback. It's ridiculous. So I look at the Titans. There's some good, there's some bad. Calvin Ridley is starting to earn that contract. If you're really paying attention and watching games, he looks really good. I don't know. I don't think he's starting to make me think that the Titans would draft Travis Hunter if Shador and Travis Hunter were both available. And I'll leave it there.
But you also have to look at the offensive line is still absolutely garbage. I mean,
Levis
was running around like crazy. He got sacked 5 times. They battled the Vikings, and give him credit because you're right. He only turned the football over 1 time, and he wasn't incredibly efficient. He had that big play to Nick Westbrook-Akine for 98 yards that accounted for, almost half of his yardage there, or, a third of his yardage there. But other than that, you're right. Ridley was pretty good, and he's starting to step up a little bit. But the running game, again, when you're down, what was it, 16-3 at halftime, you got to throw the pill a little bit instead of running it. And there was absolutely no running game. And credit to the Vikings, they did a really good job. And they're hanging right with the Lions and the Packers. They're right there. And this is a very interesting division with 9-1, 8-2, 7-3, and then you have the Bears, 4th. So yeah, the Lions, as you mentioned, just sort of the class of the NFC right now, and it's basically theirs to lose. Everybody's making them. Obviously, they're the trendy pick on the NFC side, and on the AFC side, after somebody finally knocked off the Kansas City Chiefs in the Buffalo Bills, now everybody's saying, "Oh, Bills and Lions." That's the trendy Super Bowl pick now.
Yeah, the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to the Super Bowl. Hate to tell people this. Pittsburgh's going to the Super Bowl.
F. Russell Wilson, man. He's screwed me this week.
But it's not even Russell Wilson. It's just they play football the right way defensively. This is the best unit Mike Tomlin's had in quite some time. Russell Wilson, when he needs to make a play, will make a play, although he was not at his best this past weekend. There's 3 guys right now playing football at an elite level at the wide receiver position. First, Jamar Chase. Second, Jefferson. Bless you. And the third, bless you again,
thank you,
is going to be George Pickens. George Pickens is the 3rd best receiver in football right now.
Tell him.
This guy is a bona fide superstar. He is a absolute mental head case. But, dog, I am enamored. Look at that vocabulary. Enamored.
Hammered? You're hammered?
Enamored. I'm not hammered.
Oh, okay.
But he is a superstar. And honestly, Justin Fields should be damned ashamed. We didn't know this existed the first 4 weeks of the season.
Well, I mean, he just doesn't have the capability to get the ball down the field like Russ does.
I mean, it's a reoccurring theme. Darnell Mooney is leading the NFL in 20-yard catches. It's not Justin Jefferson. It's not Jamar. It's Darnell Mooney. Common denominator is Justin Fields.
Yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong about it. But he did play a role in that game and almost helped them. He did help them secure that victory on that last drive, in which he slid just a yard too soon. But they ended up picking up the first down anyway, so it didn't really matter. But yeah, Justin Fields, he played a role, and it was what it was. But you're right, that defense is awesome, but it's also maybe Lamar Jackson just sort of never playing well against the Steelers. Like, this is something we talked about on Thursday. We documented it again. And it's just another occurrence of Lamar Jackson struggling against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And until he can play well against the Steelers, until he can play well in the postseason, I just don't know how much I'm going to believe in this man to win a Super Bowl.
I don't know if you can. I mean, I think that Lamar is what Lamar is. I think he's an MVP front runner right now, although Josh Allen just bulldozed his way literally into the conversation.
Well put.
I don't know. I really do not know. This is going to be an interesting. I mean, next month of the season. I mean, this is going to decide. I mean, it really is a lot in the air right now. It could not be a better time to be a fan of the NFL. So,
how about the Jets just getting caught up at home and Anthony Richardson? Speaking of young quarterbacks in Florida, we've talked a lot about them coming out and playing pretty darn well in his return to the starting role, and an absolutely gut-wrenching loss for the Jets faithful and Aaron Rodgers. It's just, I mean, it's a lot of bad things out there in Jet world.
it's a lot of excuse me, it's a lot of bad in Jet world, but also you got to normalize benching your quarterback when they're not doing well and being not butthurt about it. It's starting to work around the league. Bryce Young bench looks routinely better in just day-to-day activities. Anthony Richardson actually looked very, very competent going up against a pretty decent Jets defense. I think if your rookie is not doing well, be okay with pulling him and letting him just sit and develop. I'm sick of the instant gratification when it comes to a rookie quarterback because people see the CJ Strouds of last year. I'd say also this year, Bo Nix. Like, guys aren't just going to be throwing 300 yards and 4 touchdowns every single week because were a great quarterback in college. So have some patience, but also let guys sit and digest. I think
Yeah.
that's truly important for a quarterback's growth and maturation.
Yeah, I mean, on the other side of it, it's just pitiful for the Jets and Aaron Rodgers, and obviously him being my boy, I feel really bad for that whole situation. Just has looked off. The offensive line not very good, and the season is cooked. I know Aaron has talked about wanting to potentially come back for another season, but at this juncture, I mean, like, what good is it? He's just going to be another year older.
He's going to be another year older. I mean, I don't think that if I'm the Jets, I'm pulling the plug on the New York Packers. I am. I'm good. Let's just trade this capital. I mean, let's hold it, but we're going to send a message to Aaron in about April during the draft. With the 9th overall pick, we select Cam Ward, quarterback, Miami.
Well, of course, you have to do that
We're
because
going to
he's
be like,
40 years old.
hey, I'm sorry, where do you want to go? What's your destination of mind? And I hate to say this, if a Brock Purdy or something gets hurt, hey, you want to go to San Francisco and do one more run with Kyle Shanahan and just go into the sunset? That's your hometown team. You always wanted to play for him. You felt disrespected for him by passing on you 20 years ago. That's 2 decades, dog. Go ahead. Here's your California rental Make-A-Wish Foundation opportunity. Like, go ahead and ball. Right? And just cruise into the sunset because it's over. It's over. He cannot move the football like he once did, and it's starting to taint his legacy as the greatest pass thrower of all time. Not the greatest quarterback, the greatest thrower of the football of all time.
And, speaking of the 49ers, tough season for them, man. I mean, they haven't looked good. They got beat at home by the Seahawks. Seahawks needed that win on Sunday. They're both 5-5. CMC was, very pedestrian, and Brock was okay. And, you had Jawan Jennings doing some big things out there, which was great. VFL for life. But Debo was very pedestrian in this game. There was no George Kittle. Ricky Pearsall didn't have a catch. It's not looking great for San Francisco this year. Like we talked about it on Thursday. Like that division's weird. That division's weird this year. It's wide the hell open.
That division is weird, and truthfully, it's going to get even weirder. I mean, it's wild to say this. We've been talking about the damn Georgia Bulldogs a lot this show, but Matt Stafford is 4-1 in his last 5. I think he's playing like one of the best quarterbacks in the National Football League. Cooper Kupp has turned back the hands of time. Puka Nacua is looking absolutely amazing. Kyron Williams, although he didn't find the end zone yesterday, is a very, very, very reliable running back. I love the Rams. The Cardinals are always going to be sneaky. I just think they need to play better on defense. And Seattle, DK's not doing well, but Jackson Smith and Jigba.
DK wasn't bad last week,
but he's still not DK. Like I think dominance. And right now, he's still a little hobbled. You can tell he's not doing like a full go, but he's just out there because they want to win games. I do think that Geno next year is his last year as the bridge for Seattle. I think they're waiting on like an Arch or Nico. Like that seems like a really good spot for like one of those guys to go to and like and turn it up. But we'll see. And then of course your 49ers. I mean Christian McCaffrey. It took him a minute to really get rolling, and I think it's still going to take him a minute because it was a really bad injury. But he'll find it. I just hope it's not too late when he finds it.
Jam and I were talking about this the other night, but as of now, you look at Nico. If he's playing the way that he's playing, would he even come out after next year?
No, I don't think so. I think because NIL money is too good. I think
Jay,
he's gone, dog.
No. Well, I will say your recruiting pitch as Josh Heupel has been all based off of, hey, Nico's going to be here for 2 years and he's gone. You're my day one quarterback. To Faison, who was about best quarterback coming out. So yeah, that's just my thoughts. Is that Nico? If it doesn't go well, I think that he is staying and collecting those checks. But a piece of me thinks it will go well.
So. What about? Did you want to add anything from that Chiefs-Bills game?
Sorry, brother. Had a yawn in there.
What you talking about? That was a good-ass game.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. No, that was a real-life yawn.
I wasn't looking at you. Right? I wasn't looking at you. I was looking at the
I told on myself. I'm so sorry.
You're good.
Overall, I think that the Chiefs, you play with fire, you get burnt. To my boy Jay's nice phrase earlier. And they've been playing with fire for weeks. The Chiefs team could easily be a 4-loss team right now. It finally caught up to them. Pat Mahomes has not been the Pat Mahomes we know. Let's just call it what it is. I think that whenever you break up, and I'm just saying this, you break up with somebody, man, and it's just like, man, he or she, they weren't all that bad. It was bad, but it sucks out here. Tyreek Hill and Pat Mahomes are saying that about one another. It's like, damn, I miss my ex-wife. They need each other. Tyreek is not doing well in Miami. He's not. Yes, he was, successful and they won. Cheetah should be up there as the best receiver in football, and he's just not right now.
Hey, we don't look at him.
Money talks, but I know guys have pride, right? Guys want to be impactful. And I truly do think that he is just not where he needs to be. And Pat does not look like the same guy without those deep balls down the field. No diddy.
Those deep shots?
Yeah.
Pause.
You pause.
This was a huge win for the Bills. And it's psychologically, dude, like this is exactly what Josh Allen, Sean McDermott, and the whole Bills franchise needed to kind of rid themselves of what's happened in the past. They are 5-0 at home, 9-2 overall, and they're putting themselves in the driver's seat to be the best team in the AFC going into the playoffs and the postseason. This is what they needed. I think it was more of a psyche win than anything else. And give credit where credit is due. The Bills defense did pretty well. They picked off Patty twice, and I know he threw 3 touchdowns, but made it difficult for him all day long. And there wasn't a whole lot comfortable out there except for Xavier Worthy running a little bit wild and Noah Gray catching a couple of touchdowns. But, this was a huge psychological win. And then on Sunday night, our boy Joe Burrow balled out again, but he keeps getting dealt shitty hands because
somebody get
Evan
my boy,
McPherson
bro.
Can't kick a gosh darn field goal.
Somebody help my guy, please. Please, what did Jamar and Joe do? Like, is this the punishment they got for just wrecking college football for a season? Like, did they just get relegated to the depths of the Bengals?
Well, they did make a Super Bowl. They did make a Super Bowl.
They did. Yeah, they did. I mean, yeah. For what it's worth, we made a Super Bowl
2.0.
What?
I mean, it's Matt and Julio 2.0 is what he said.
It's Matt and Julio 2.0.
Yeah, that's literally like after that game, I just saw Miggy's retweets of people being like, yeah, this is welcome to Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan did this for years.
And they didn't feel bad for him. So I don't feel bad for Joe Burrow.
It's because Matt Ryan wasn't a Heisman winning quarterback.
Matt Ryan is the type, but he was drafted number 3 overall. Matt Ryan is just a dork that has children and doesn't have swag and wear.
And Joe's got swag. Pants. Yeah.
And he took the Bengals to a Super Bowl, man. Like it's the Bengals.
It's the Bengals. Well, it's the Falcons.
The Falcons.
You could say it's the Falcons.
Yeah.
Matt Ryan took a city that smells like lemon pepper and singles to the Super Bowl dressed like he works at Enterprise Rental Car 85% of the time. Like, what are we talking about? Like dog, like I saw the media disrespect Matt Ryan, and it's so unfair. So now, Joe Burrow, I'm sorry. This is just your role. Enjoy it because it happened to my guy so many times. Enjoy it, bro. You're now graduated from Sam Bradford status. You're at Matt Ryan status. My GOAT. Yeah.
Well, that's not a terrible place to be.
Welcome to 4,000 yards and 40 touchdowns and 8-8
playoffs.
And losing the game 39-38.
Oh. I mean, yeah.
Are they the best 4-7 team in the league?
100%. 100%.
I know.
That was
facetious.
And on the other side, I know we've talked about it. We talked about it on Thursday with the Chargers, and Harbaugh. It's just boring. Your boy Ladd McConkey had some huge catches on that last drive, and they had a special teams that could execute, and the Bengals didn't, and J.K. Dobbins with that big run to just sort of bust it out. But yeah, it's there are some holes there and some problems in Cincinnati. It's the offensive line, it's the defense, and then on the other side for the Chargers, Justin Herbert just looking much more confident and comfortable. And it's so amazing to see how differently things are run under Harbaugh compared to what was there with Brandon Staley and company beforehand. Yep. It just seemed very like playgroundish, recklessness, like throw caution to the wind. Like, I don't really know what I'm doing, but I'm going to go for 800 fourth downs. 4th and 22, F it. We're going for it. Brandon Staley would just go for it all of the time. It seems like Harbaugh is very calculated. They have a plan of what they want to do. They attack that plan. And look, I have no qualms with the Chargers. I think Justin Herbert's an awesome dude. He's got weird patchy facial hair, but it is what it is. And Ladd McConkey is, he's turning into one of these like weirdly go-to guys in his rookie season.
Big bad lad, baby. It wasn't a fluke last year, man. He's a baller. He's got some skills. But do you feel like the Bengals currently are under Zach Taylor or what the Chargers were under Brandon Staley? Where if the Bengals can get somebody that, because it feels like with the Chargers now, what you talked about with the Jim Harbaugh style of football, the first thing I thought about is I was like as you were describing it, is I was like, oh, they have an identity. They know what they are. So they're going to go out there and they're going to do the same thing every game. And if it works, they're going to win. And if it doesn't work, well, plan didn't work today.
Well, shit.
Does it feel like the Bengals are, and I'm not saying they're exactly the same team, that the Chargers were under Brandon Staley, but does it feel like they're in a very similar spot where it's like, hey, if you can get somebody that's just a little bit more organized, somebody that can, lead the ship a little bit better, and obviously you got to draft somebody on the line, but do you think Zach Taylor survives this year?
He should not survive this year.
I was going to say, nah.
No. I mean, Cliff Kingsbury, or you know what? Let's just cut the BS. Ben Johnson, Jamar Chase, find the money for T. Higgins and Joe Burrow. That needs to be a marriage, and just outscore people. Just do it. Steam folks up. Go get you Ashton Genty. And just because Chase Brown ain't it, man.
No, dude. Get Chase Brown could be better if the line, go get somebody on the line. Take care of Joe.
Yes, you need to take care of Joe first and foremost. Be boring. Be Harbaugh. Have we not just talked about be Harbaugh and go get a damn offensive lineman?
Go get your Joe Alt.
Yes,
because if you can protect Joe, he can win you football games. The running back position, it is what it is. And Ashton Genty would be, in my opinion, I'm kind of with you, would be an upgrade. But Chase Brown is more than serviceable for what they want to do and the skill set that they have on the outside to have success if they just take care of the line first and take care of Joe.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. They have to do that. We've talked about it. It could be Andrew Luck 2.0, and I don't want that for Joe Burrow. I don't want that for Joe Burrow. Go protect him. You need offensive linemen. You need defensive players, and you need to pay Jamar Chase, and you need to pay T. Higgins. Get it done. Get Ben Johnson in here.
Yeah, I don't care if you can get. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, I don't care if Lou Adamoruno stays as the defensive coordinator. I don't think he's bad. I just don't think they have good pieces there. I know they brought in Geno Stone, and Trey Hendrickson is still awesome, but everybody else is very subpar.
And if you can get some serviceable lineman that ends up being, I don't think you're going to get a Joe Alt, but if you can get somebody on a rookie deal that is better than what you have now, that just opens up the door for you to pay your other players.
Yeah.
So build from the front to the back, man.
Bingo.
Protect Joe, and he will win you football games.
Bingo. Well, I think that pretty much wraps it up when it comes to the National Football League. Did y'all want to touch on anything about the heist that we watched on Saturday evening? Or whenever it was,
brother. Listen, man.
Sunday, Friday, whatever
Friday
the fight was. Friday night,
dude.
I'm falling asleep due to my work schedule, but I'm gonna leave you with this. That was a heist, and shout out to the ladies that really showed the men how to box on Friday night.
Yeah,
simple as that. I think that. Mike Tyson, brother, I get it. We all got bills, but you just got to do what you got to do. And Jake, I think that's, to me, an asterisk. And I want to see you fight for real, right? I think you're cheating the game of boxing. Who's came before you, right? This is really a gentleman's sport, and it was gimmicky. And that's all for me, guys.
That's what he is. He's a gimmick. All he is a gimmick, and he's a money grab, which is fine. I mean, if he's going to make lots of money, he's going to be fine. I don't think he should have any qualms about actually fighting a real fighter. If he can find these entertaining fights, put them together, put them on Netflix and get the streaming and all that money and everything like that, I mean, he shouldn't give a shit.
No, I mean, if he's out to make, it depends on what his goal is.
Yeah.
Because he called out, he challenged Canelo.
Yeah.
And that's different.
Well, I mean, when you make all this, when you make all this money, okay, great. You got this money. You got this generational wealth. Cool. Now, if you really want to be a boxer, go fight Canelo. Go fight some other guys. Actually fight some boxers. If, in fact, you're talking about, that's actually what you want to be. And it kind of seems like he wants to be that, but I don't know. Maybe he just wanted to build it up this way first and kind of get his feet wet and make a lot of money and then try to go be a legitimate boxer.
Who knows, man?
I don't know.
I know. Yeah. In the article I read today, Canelo seemed like he wasn't interested because I don't think he takes him serious.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, maybe he's got to go, a smaller route. literally go through the boxing circuit and work his way up. He thinks he can kind of just skip the line because he's fighting all these high-profile people, but aren't actually legitimate boxers. So maybe no legitimate boxers actually respect him, like you're talking about.
Got to earn it, man.
Yeah, just like the ass cheeks of Mike Tyson. Got to earn that. And on that note,
cheeked up on a Friday night.
Double cheek though.
Yeah.
All right. Well, victory.
On that note, boys, it's been a fun show. A lot of college football. We dove into some NFL. Got a little ass cheek there at the end with that ass fight. But always good to see y'all's faces. And I cannot wait for what we're going to bring y'all on Wednesday. We don't have a show, but we are going to go to the Alabama-Illinois game down in Birmingham, Alabama, courtesy of Night Edie. Shout out to them. We're really excited. We're going to bring you some content down there. Unfortunately, the man to my left won't be able to make it in Malcolm Harris, but he will be there in spirit. But Joseph, Chase, myself, and Garrett will all be going down to Birmingham. Excited to stay on to that. Follow us all over social media at Chatt It Up Sports. That's Instagram, that's TikTok, that's Twitter, that's Facebook, on YouTube, all that good stuff. And wherever you get your podcast, make sure you are subscribing and following along as well. We drop all these episodes, all these live shows. We put them in podcast form. Joseph, Chase, and myself, we all go through it, and we all put them up at various times. So we appreciate you hanging with us here on this Monday evening edition of the show. From my man, Malcolm Harris, who's got to get up early tomorrow. Malcolm, we appreciate you staying with us and sticking with us, my brother. We love you.
I love you, and I love you, Joseph. I'm committed to the cause, man.
Joseph Guthrie in his elementary school basement, looking tiles up there with the ceiling and whatnot, and the ceiling lights, having a good old time. And yeah, one more time for the folks there. We can remove him from the stage. With that, now it's just me and I. Look at that, perfect.
Get us out of here, man.
Yeah, we have the power. No.
I'm out of here. Get him out of here.
No.
Cut him out of here. Greg, I love you, baby.
I love you guys. Have a great night. We'll see you for our live show on Thursday. We're virtual again, yes?
Yes.
Virtual again on Thursday. All right, boys. Have a great evening. Everybody else listening, we appreciate you being with us. Peace and love. This is Chatt It Up Sports. We're out.